Hello everyone, this is part 16 of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Kyuubi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Morning had come too soon for the demon pair, but they groggily got up to start the day anyway. They showed together, enjoying the closeness they shared before getting Haku. Ohio Natsumi-san, Naruto-san. Haku said, hiding her yawn, before she noticed Naruto had changed his look from his normal, mini Junin look. New look? She asked curiously. Yay Naru-kun. I didn't think you'd get so serious this early on in the exam. Especially going so far as to finally use those special sandals I got you. Natsumi agreed, noticing that he wore the sandals she had gotten him while training. Naruto's new look wasn't as different as the two made it seem. The only difference in his dress was that he exchanged his form-fitting shinobi pants for a pair of loose flowing black pants that flared out the farther down the leggings it got. He also had his dark orange flak jacket open, revealing his form-fitting shirt, while he had his Konoha headband now wrapped around his waist like a makeshift belt, leaving his hair to fall slightly over his eyes. His last changes were the white socks he wore along with the black sandals that wrapped around his toes and heel and ankle. They looked very sleek, much different than normal shinobi sandals, which were heavily padded to cushion the shock from landings since they could jump from high places such as trees and cliffs. His sandals lacked the sheer thickness in the sole which could allow a lot of damage to the legs if used improperly while fighting. That is the exact reason that those kinds of sandals became obsolete when the age of samurai and only close quarters combat SD and the age of chakra and shinobi took hold. But I might get a chance to fight someone interesting, and I don't want to disappoint. He said with a bloodthirsty leer, that wasn't unnoticed by his companions. True, Natsumi conceded, with a shrug and a happy smile at seeing her mate, evil side, so early in the morning. Anno. Natsumi-san, what did you mean by special sandals? Haku questioned, curious as she eyed Naruto's footwear. You'll see, Haku-chan, you'll see, she answered cryptically with a smirk, making Haku uncharacteristically pout in defiance. Well, let's go, guys, would be rude to keep them waiting. Naruto ordered while activating his compound's security once they had exited the gates. The team quickly maneuvered through the desolate streets, and made it to training ground 44 in little time. Once on the scene, they noticed that the other teams were already there and were simply waiting for the exam to begin. The team walked into an open area and sat down, waiting for the same as the other teams. Ohio. A grisly voice called out to them, making them look in its direction. Our Ohio Gaara, Temari-chan, Kankuro, Naruto greeted, seeing the siblings walking up to them. We just wanted to wish you good luck in the exams, Temari said with a warm smile. Arigato, and good luck to you as well, Haku smiled back. Gaara, have you come to a decision by chance? Naruto asked. Hi, we would like the help, once the exams are over, Gaga answered, being careful of his choice of words. Both teams had already noticed that ever since Team Ice Fox entered the area, a good portion of the genin stared at them with calculating and intent gazes, forcing the two teams to tread carefully with the topics and words they spoke. Good, we'll deal with it once it's over then. Naruto agreed. Ohio. Another voice, though decided softer and feminine than the first, called out to the group. Ohio Yugito-chan. Naruto greeted, seeing the Kumo Kunoiki walking to them. Had a good night's sleep, I hope, he inquired with a smile. Hi, she stuttered slightly with a small blush, embarrassed at the irony of the fact that the person who asked her that was the very person she had been thinking about while in bed the night before. Oh, Bukiheim, why did you leave like that? An aggravated voice called out from behind Yugito, making the container clench her teeth. I wanted to meet the compassion. She lied, hoping he'd just drop it. What compassion? With me, Akiko, and you here especially, all I see are 6 genin who are going to get their asses beat. He answered arrogantly, making all but Natsumi, Naruto and Gaara level small glares at him. Anyway, come on, the exams are about to start, so let's go. He ordered, before leaving. Gumen, Yugito apologized. Naruto dismissed it with a wave of his hand. Not a problem, he'll just have to learn the hard way about how you shouldn't be arrogant as a shinobi. He reassured, a sadistic leer on his lips, making Yugito smile in appreciation. The Kumo Jinchuriki bowed slightly before going back to her team, leaving the group on their own again. What's with the new look? Yet another voice called out to them, though obviously talking to Naruto, being that he was the only one that looked different. Naruto snorted in annoyance when he recognized the voice and looked up to see Uchiha Sasuke, with his team standing off to the side. Naruto was about to answer, when a fourth voice interjected. Probably because he has a small L, and is afraid the ladies will notice if he continued to wear the standard shinobi pants like he had been. A gruff voice joked, as the three teams turned and saw the Iwa team from the day before walk up to them, looking quite smug. Oi, what's so funny? Or was it that I was right? The boy questioned, annoyed after hearing an amused snort come from Natsumi. She sent him a dismissing glance. Hardly. I wouldn't say 8 inches was small. She replied as if discussing the weather. She inwardly smirked at seeing all the boys in the area unconsciously look down at themselves in embarrassed disappointment. While the girls almost drooled at the new information, and were currently stinging the blonde boy with their eyes, hoping for a sample. Did you really have to be so specific? Naruto playfully scolded, with an amused smile on his face and shaking his head in disbelief. She simply shrugged. Hey, it shut him up, didn't it? Besides, I'm certainly not ashamed of it. She cooed playfully. It's probably just a genjutsu, after all kitsunes are known for being tricksters. I'm surprised he didn't make it bigger just to boost his ego, yet a fifth voice entered the conversation putting in their 2 cents. Natsumi growled at the boy's sister's well as offensive jab, but calmed when Naruto placed a calming hand on her own. She looked over to see Naruto's cold gaze look at her, before turning to the team that just walked up to them. I don't have the time nor the patience to deal with you three right now. And a word of advice, get your facts straight before another ignorant thought leaves your lips. Kyuubi is female, or are you just that cis that you think all powerful beings have to have AL? Need I remind you your clan head as well as next heir are both female? Valios was it. Naruto scolded, his voice coming out in a barely suppressed growl. Valios just snorted in defeat, with his botheran sister next to him before leveling a heated glare at the blonde. Your time with come soon enough, demon, so enjoy your time in my Nissan's body. Because by the end of this exam you will lose everything, and his soul will finally be free of you. Valios retorted venomously, his fists clenching tightly. Naruto dismissed the threat. I'll keep that in mind, but until that time comes, get out of my face, you're ruining my mood. Oh, and the next time you see Kushina, make sure to tell her that I said to watch the exams very closely, because by the end she will see the truth. He ordered cryptically. Team Whirlpool leveled a glare at him before walking away back into the crowd of genin. The two friendly teams had noticed that the Iwa team had left as well. Probably when they heard about Kyuubi, they all thought, damn, why the hell am I so popular? Naruto sighed loudly, getting sympathetic smiles from his friends. Who knows? But I hope that the girls who heard me before aren't thinking of trying anything with my Naru-kun. Natsumi said, shooting a playful glare at both Temari, Haku, who had the decency to blush at her implications, and an annoyed one at Sakura, who was also blushing. He's not our type, I'm afraid, Haku answered sheepishly, making sure to choose her words carefully considering Team 7 was still there. True, and let's keep it that way. She smirked back at the teens. Sasuke was about to repeat his question since he never actually got it answered, thanks to the interruptions of the other two teams. He saw the odd sandals that Naruto was wearing and could remember reading about them somewhere pertaining to fighting. He wanted as much information as possible to both sate his curiosity, but also to know any of Naruto's tricks. He hadn't for a moment forget his humiliating defeat in Wave, and vowed that the next time they fought he would completely destroy him, Naruto. Even if he had to beat Naruto using his own jutsu against him thanks to his Kekkei Genkai. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you looked at it, a large explosion soon erupted at the front of the gates to the training ground, getting all the genin's attention. When the smoke cleared, there were 5 Chunin standing there, with Mitarashi Anko at the forefront. Alright, you little bastards, get into your teams and get over here. 'Cause I'm not gonna repeat the rules once I finish, so listen well. She warned, her sickly sweet smile plastered on her face, before explaining this part of the exam and its rules when all the genin were close enough to listen. Now since I know you don't any questions. She paused her sentence, to jump over to the shack where the heaven and earth scrolls would be distributed. Get your scroll and move to your assigned gate. She ordered with her sadistic leer on full blast, hoping that someone would disobey her orders so she could have some fun. The teams quickly got their scrolls and headed to their respective gates, awaiting for the signal for the second part of the Chunin exams to begin. So, King will be allowed NE. Natsumi reaffirmed offhandedly, with her voice trembling excitement at the prospect. Hi, but I have a feeling I'm going to be hunted by a few teams, meaning we need to get to the tower as quickly as possible to assure out seats for the next part. That doesn't mean I can't have some fun, though, she argued with a pout. Of course not, I'd never deny you that, he answered with a playful leer. I know they aren't like the stereotypical demon, but they sure have the bloodlust like one, Haku thought while listening to her teammates, and shook her head, inwardly chuckling at their rather childish attitudes. The team continued to talk for a while, until a loud explosion went off in the middle of the forest, and the gates opened marking the start of the exam. Well, let's go, Naruto ordered. His teammates just nodded before disappearing into the forest of death, leaving only small dust clouds in their wake, while the other teams did the same. Naruto-kun, how will we know what teams has what scroll? Haku asked, as trees whizzed past them while running. We won't, we'll simply ask whatever teams we find until we get an earth scroll, he explained as if the answer was obvious. Isn't that a bit reckless? She questioned, before remembering just exactly who her two teammates were. No, never mind, she said, making them all chuckle. They ran a bit farther and were forced to move around a large tree that was one of the biggest the three had ever seen. MMNN, yours is bigger, Natsumi joked seductively while making a fake calculating look at the tree trunk. Naruto guffawed and almost lost his footing at her random and rather inappropriate comment, while Haku blushed deeply. She wondering just how big of a libido Natsumi and other female demons could possibly have to think about so much. Unfortunately, their moods changed immediately, when they heard a slight whizzing approaching them from behind, and scattered in different directions as a battalion of jagged-edged rocks flew through the air where they just were. Or, seems they heard us coming. Oh well, just means we get to play with the Namikas more. A voice called out excitedly. Team Ice Fox regrouped and looked at the interlopers, noticing Team Iwa had emerged from the underbrush. We have a shrine to keep. If you happen to have an earth scroll, please give it to us and leave. Haku said, her usual soft voice replaced with the emotionless one she used fighting alongside Zabuza. Or, you could simply give us your scroll, and we'll only K the Namikas instead of all three of you. The boy negotiated. If that is your choice, she answered, before beginning to hand seal. Team Iwa went swiftly into action and shot some kunai at Haku to disrupt her concentration before going on the offensive. They separated and each attacked one of the members of Ice Fox. Unfortunately, during that time Naruto also began hand sealing, though even faster than Haku, allowing Hai to call his jutsu first. Suten, Sushoa, water style, water collision destruction. Naruto shouted, as a large column of water appeared out of nowhere. What? The Iwanins shouted, surprised that someone could actually summon water with no source nearby. After the water was summoned, Naruto sent the column shooting at the middle Iwa shinobi, that is until he did another seal. Katsu, split. He shouted, which caused the large column to split into three smaller ones and then snake their way towards all three shinobi. Damn it. The badgering shinobi shouted, before the three Iwa shinobi began hand sealing the same thing. Dayton, Doryu Heki, Earth style wall. All three shouted, before slamming their hands into the ground in front of them. The chakra flowed into the ground before the earth shot up, forming a rock wall to protect him from Naruto's jutsu. Damn it, that was too close. I didn't think he had such high chakra reserves or a water affinity to be able to summon a Suten jutsu like that. The badgering shinobi thought, after feeling the collision of Naruto's jutsu beat against his own. Wait, what is that? He mentally questioned, when he saw a snowflake fall down his line of vision, until realization hit him, and he jumped up from his crouching position. He shouted, though it was already too late, and was quickly encompassed in a block of ice, the same as his two teammates. Not a bad combo. Natsumi mused, remembering the plans they had discussed prior to the exam beginning on how to fight, while in the forest. See, what did I tell you, Naru-kun? Hyoten jutsu are a nice trick up your sleeve, since few shinobi know them outside of Snow Country NE. She rhetorically asked, while smugly smirking. Hi Natsu-chan. He agreed with a laugh, giving her a kiss as a reward. Nice work, Haku-chan. He praised, getting a satisfied smile from the young teen. Any Natsu-chan want to take it from here? Hi, she answered with no hidden hint of glee, before two balls made up of white flames engorged her hands. Kitsune by Foxfire. She shouted, launching both flames at the popsicled shinobi, and a third one at the remaining one. The immense flames quickly melted away the ice, as well as the clothing, and bones of the Iwanin. It left only 3 puddles of boiling blood, water and smoldering ashes in their place, with an earth scroll in one of the 3 puddles. Are we lucky? Natsumi said happily as she nearly skipped to the puddle with the scroll, grabbed it without a care in the world and held it up to her team victoriously with a sadistic and happy smile. Earth scroll, she chirped. And shush is your mate, Haku joked sarcastically, making Naruto look at her with bugged eyes. Did you just, make a joke? He stuttered out, wondering if this was really Haku. She was always so respectful. The young teen had the decency to blush, and look sheepish. Anno, I guess you guys are rubbing off on me, she confessed, making Naruto laugh. Hi, perhaps, but it's nice to hear you joke around. You're kind of a stick in the mud sometimes since you're always so damn proper. He joked back, ruffing her hair playfully, making her smile. And I see you've mastered a few of the Hyoten jutsu my clone showed you the other day, not too bad Haku-chan. He praised once more. Well, since we got what we are here for, let's get to the tower, and ensure our spots. He suggested, getting nods from his team. Haku-chan, can you keep up? He asked, knowing that he and Natsumi were much faster than her, but then again he had only seen her fight all out once. Can you? She asked, with a smirk before running off into the forest towards the tower. Oh ho, seems she's grown a pair. He joked, watching Haku disappear. I think we've created a monster, Natsu-chan, he said, making them both laugh before running off to catch up to the young friend. The demons quickly caught up with Haku, and they stayed at her set pace, reaching the tower in a record time of only an hour into it. They entered the building and simply followed the hallway, which led them to a large hallowed room. On the opposite wall were instructions to finally open the 2 scrolls. Natsumi immediately did so when the writing on the 2 scrolls glowed slightly before a plume of smoke erupted from them. Ah, congratulations you 3, a masculine voice called out. Ah, yo, Yamato-san, Naruto said, recognizing the ANBU's voice. Ohio, he greeted, before looking at the clock on the wall and whistled in amazement. Barely an hour into it and already done. I'd say that would be a record, but unfortunately we all know what's going to happen in a month's time, he said, making the team nod. So not what? We just wait for the other teams? Naruto questioned, rather boredly. Unfortunately yes, however there are rooms for you to rest in, eat or what have you. However you aren't allowed to leave the training grounds until the exam is completely finished. Making the demons snort in annoyance. Very well then. I'm going to go back out, there are things I wish to take care of. Naruto said while turning around and heading back the way they came, seeming to disregard Yamato's words. Me too, that team didn't satisfy me at all, Natsumi pouted, heading back with Naruto. That cause your insatiable Natsu-chan, he joked, purposely leaving the innuendo out there. Only in certain circumstances. She purred back with a devilish smirk, purposely stepping on the landmine her mate left. As they were about to leave the room, Yamato shunshined in front of them, with arms crossed defiantly. Gomen you too, but once you complete the survival training you aren't allowed back out. And you are going to stop us? Naruto said, his voice growing lower and slightly annoyed. Nope, just wanted to make sure that if things go wrong out there I won't be held responsible since I both warned you and tried to stop you. He answered with a chuckle, moving out of the way of the demons who smirked back in appreciation. Oi, Haku-chan, watch the fort and go relax some NE. Naruto called back, before both demons disappeared around a corner. So how many teams did you take down before getting here? Yamato asked. Only one. Luckily those seals on the scrolls make them pretty much indestructible. I'd have been annoyed if we had lost it along with the corpses, she responded nonchalantly. Ah, so you took the lethal force rule to heart then, NE. Hi. Natsumi-san got a bit too excited and melted the corpses. She answered with a shrug before heading towards the mess hall and lounge. I would hate to ever have to face those two, Yamato thought, a small shiver going down his spine, while looking at the area the demon pair had disappeared in. With Naruto and Natsumi, how long do you think we need? Natsumi asked, standing at the entrance of the tower. 2 hours should be fine, he answered, resting against a stone column connected to the tower. But you know I won't be satisfied in that short amount of time, she pouted jokingly. I guess I'll just have to help you out later on then, he said huskily. I guess you will, she purred out, going over and pressed her body against his playfully. Naruto just smirked at her playfulness before leaning down and kissed her. 2 hours then, she said after licking his lips, then, shunshined away in a swirl of leaves. Naruto was about to do the same when he saw another team enter the clearing of the tower. Wow, you guys worked pretty fast, he called, seeing the Sand siblings. Apparently not fast enough, Kankuro joked. Yay, well. Naruto drifted off with a chuckle. Anything interesting happen? He asked, getting head shakes in response. That's too bad. Well, should be interesting with 2 Jinchurikis now, he smirked, making Gaara do the same. Unfortunately, I have some business to take care of out in the forest, so I'll see you guys back inside later on NE. And congratulations, he said with a wave, before, shunshining in a swirl of leaves. Well, let's finish this up and get some well-needed rest, Temari offered, making her brothers look at her oddly, before they all began to laugh at how silly her statement was and entered the tower. With Naruto. Now where are you, kitty kitty kitty? Naruto said, with a chuckle at his bad joke, while surveying what he could from his perch atop a high tree branch. He knew that Yugito herself would be fine, but the problem was that she not only had to protect herself but her teammates as well. And even being a Jinchuriki, it would be tough to fight off 3 opponents or more while keeping yourself and 2 other people alive at the same time. He just wanted to keep an eye on her, until she got to the tower, so make sure nothing happened to her. Giving up his search at that point, he disappeared in a burst of speed, leaving an indentation mark on the branch he was just standing on. While jumping through the forest he found a few teams, but they were too preoccupied with each other to notice him, and he just kept on moving, seeing none of them were Kumo. Plus he figured that Natsumi would be along to have some fun with them anyway, so why ruin it for her? Ah, finally got you, he said, smiling as a familiar scent wafted into his nose, and stopped immediately before jumping towards the direction it was coming from. They must be fighting already, he mused, as he smelled 3 scents that didn't belong to any of the Kumo team. Naruto quickly maneuvered through the forest, until he came into a clearing and saw what he suspected. Yugito's team in a heated battle with some team from AM. Naruto noticed that Yugito and her team were holding their own well, and was even slightly surprised that the boy named Rei was a decent fighter despite his arrogant attitude. Truth be told, Rei reminded him a lot of Sasuke. With not being needed, Naruto simply sat and rested on a tree branch and watched the fight commence. Battle. Why don't you guys just give us your scroll already? I'm tired of playing with you. The ranged shinobi that was attacking Rei asked, while dodging the boy's punches. Because I won't lose, Rei roared, launching another punch, though this one was different. The boy's entire hand crackled with lightning. The ranged shinobi only noticed it at the last minute while dodging, but was unable to completely dodge the lightning, making him scream in pain before jumping away. Guess you liked my Reiku Genkotsu no Jutsu, lightning fist technique, NE. I'm not the Reikage's Sochi for nothing, you know, Rei said smugly, seeing the pained expression on the ranged shinobi. Not bad, you little brat. Unfortunately now you've made me mad. So no more playing around, he retorted, getting into a new stance that Rei hadn't seen yet. While this was going on, Yugito and Akiko were fighting their own battles, though theirs were going more smoothly. Unfortunately they couldn't seem to finish him off, especially since Yugito wanted to save Izanami's chakra for a more important battle than this one. Damn, Rei isn't looking too good. She thought while averting her gaze from her opponent to see Rei's beaten up and haggard form only being able to defend himself against the seemingly refreshed Rain Nin. Quote. I have to end this before he gets any worse, she concluded. Yugito's opponent noticed her lack of attention and quickly began to hand sign with the opportunity given. By the time Yugito's attention was back on him, he was about to yell his jutsu, which caused her to curse at her lack of attention. Suten, Kokun no Jutsu, water style, black clouds technique. He said as an aura of black mist began to emanate from his body before flowing into the air. The mist stayed in the air only a moment before raining down on the entire clearing, soaking all but the 3 rain shinobi in its sticky substance. What is this? Akiko asked, feeling the liquid between her fingers, until she recognized the texture. Oil. Hi. Very good, the summoner said sarcastically. Quote. Now, he shouted out of nowhere. The Rain Nin that was fighting Akiko immediately shot out an array of ninja wire, aiming for the drenched Kumo team. The wire was able to capture both Rei and Akiko in surprise, who were now tied to nearby trees on opposite ends of the clearing. Well, look at what we have here, Yugito's opponent said with a maniacal laugh, as his team converged on her. Seems to me you have a conundrum on your hands. He paused while nodding, after which his teammates turned towards her comrades. You can only save one of them, he said before smirking with a crazed look in his eye, as his teammates began to hand seal. Who will it be? The Raikage's stain of a Sochi. He pointed to Rai. Or the girl who seems to respect you, if only slightly. He finished pointing to Akiko. Yugito went wide-eyed at the man's plan, king she could do without a second thought. But choosing which of her teammates will s. And what's worse is that no matter who she chooses, her mother will be ked for her own lack of ability if the Raikage has anything to say about it. I'm your superior, dammit, save me. Rei shooted out offered it to Yugito while struggling with the wire. With Naruto. This is bad, Naruto thought worriedly. He quickly stood up and took out a kunai. If his plan was to work, he'd have to react quickly to Yugito's choice, to be able to reach the other within time. He simply watched with concerned eyes while a chain of emotions run across Yugito's face, eyes, most of them being sadness and fear. He prepared himself to move at a moment's notice. With Yugito. Time's up. The man laughed suddenly, snapping his fingers. Kaiten, Gukakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique. The 2 rain shinobi yelled out before a large flame jettisoned out of their mouths towards Rei and Akiko. Yugito looked horrified, but her subconscious willed her body to run towards Rei. As much as she had wanted to save Akiko and leave Rei to burn, she knew that Rei was more important to Kumo, and it seemed her body knew it too. By the time her thoughts caught up with her body, she was only a few feet from Rei with the fireball screaming at him still. She reached the boy and quickly slashed the ninja wire in twain before pushing him away from the jutsu and into the ground. Her breath hitched when her thoughts ran to Akiko. She quickly jumped back as the fireball decimated the tree Rei was tied to. Yugito turned just in time to get a clear look at Akiko, and all she could do was look in horror as the girl was engulfed in flame. Akiko! She screamed, tears of both sadness and fury threatening to cascade down her face at realizing she just lost the only other person that treated her like a human being other than her Car-san in all of Kumo. Yugito's entire body trembled, while her hands were repeatedly clenching and unclench. She now wanted to obliterate the Rain Shinobi, completely. However, what everyone in the clearing had failed to hear while Yugito screamed was the sound of a jutsu being called from above them. Raiten, Shurai no Jutsu, lightning style, lightning strike technique. Everyone immediately looked up hearing the voice, only to see was a growing ball of lightning careening over them. Impossible, the Rain Shinobi who attacked Akiko said in disbelief, before an engorged lightning bolt sent its way towards the Rain team. Katsu, split, the voice called. The large lightning bolt, quickly separated into 3 smaller versions of itself, and while slightly weaker, were now infinitely faster. The Rain team didn't even have a moment to get out of the way before all 3 bolts encompassed them. The lightning seemed to reach inside the mouths of its shinobi opponents and gargled their screams of pain. The sheer intensity of the lightning coursing near them soon caused their eyeballs to bubble and then explode out of their skulls from the heat. Their nasal passages, ears and mouths began to ooze blood. The lightning continued to flow through its oral pathway and affected every other part of the Rain Shinobi's boss, obvious from the fact their skin began to bubble up and then explode like miniature volcanoes, spewing boiling blood out of every part of their exposed skin, caressing the ground with the scarlet liquid. Soon the jutsu ceased its onslaught, allowing the Rain Shinobi to fall to the ground, with a fourth body landing in a crouching position in front of the corpses. Yugito wiped her eyes, and took a step forward, noticing a patch of brown hair as her vision cleared. Akiko, she called out, hoping her eyes weren't deceiving her. The shinobi soon stood and turned towards Yugito's direction, a small smile on her face. Hi, she answered, confirming herself to still be alive to the Nibi container. Yugito walked over to her and wrapped her up in a small hug, of which she returned in kind if rather hesitantly, considering they were still in a life or death exam. Good. I'd be rather annoyed if we had to forfeit our spots just because one of USD. Ray scoffed, while dusting himself off after finally getting up from where Yugito threw him. Don't be such a smart-ass, Ray. Akiko scolded him. You're only alive because Yugito saved you, so be grateful. He scowled at his teammate. Why? For doing the only thing she was ever born to do. He snorted in disgust. Thank her, the idea was laughable. She did her job, I see no reason to praise her for the mission she is supposed to be doing here. He finished, turning away from his teammates. Now let's check to see if those bastards have the scroll we need. Asshole, Akiko cursed, as she walked away from Yugito in search of the scroll in the remains of the Rain Shinobi. The three began looking for the scroll, rummaging through the charred remains and belongings of their opponents. How the hell did you escape the wire anyway? And where did you learn that Raiten Jutsu from? Ray asked. Akiko stopped her search, and began to backtrack in her memory about how exactly she had escaped. I don't really know, she confessed, going back to searching. I remember being tied to the tree and seeing the jutsu charging towards me. The next thing I know, I feel a strong breeze blow past me, and then the wires holding me simply fell to the ground harmlessly. I ran up the tree and launched off, and the rest you both know. She explained. This one doesn't have it, she said offhandedly. As far as the jutsu, I've been working on it for quite a while on my own, and was able to master it before the exam started. It's one of my most powerful jutsu too. She chirped pridefully. A strong breeze, Yugito mused while muddling Akiko's words in her head, before she found something amongst the corpse. Yugito grabbed the cylinder from the pocket of the Rain Nin, and pulled it out. She looked at it, and with a disappointed sigh noticed it had the symbol for heaven on it. Which is the scroll they were also given, meaning this battle was for nothing. She was about to get up and tell her team, when she felt something hit her shoe. She looked down to see another scroll roll slightly back and forth like it was just tossed at her. She picked it up, turned it around, and to her surprise it had the symbol for Earth on it, the exact scroll they needed. She had no idea where it came from, and looked around from the direction it might have come from. She found nothing out of the ordinary, and was about to tell her team she found it, but cut herself off when she noticed a piece of paper hanging off the scroll. Curiously, she opened the small note and read it. Now you owe me one, Neko-chan. Get to the tower, I'll see you there, Ne. Yeah. She reread the note a few times, trying to figure out who it could have been that wrote the note and given her team the scroll. She soon snorted in bemusement, with a small blush on her cheeks, when it finally clicked in her mind. Naruto-kun, she thought with a happy smile, realizing that he must have been watching them fight, and had been the strong breeze that released Akiko, saving her. I certainly do owe you one. She agreed, her blush deepening because of all the possibilities could mean. I can owe him the favor in your stead if you want, kitten. Azanami purred out the offer, her words sping with lust and innuendos. Yugito just snorted in response to her friend and shook her head, before standing up. I found the scroll, and it's Earth. Good. Then let's get the hell out of here, Ray ordered, jumping off into the forest towards the tower. Bastard. Akiko cursed him, before she and Yugito jumped off after him. Yugito, you okay? Your face is red, you couldn't have gotten tired after only that battle. I mean, you never get tired thanks to Nibi, she asked, noticing Yugito's pink cheeks. Hi, I'm fine, Just a little winded is all. Alright. She has been acting strange ever since we got to Konoha. I should keep an eye on her. Akiko mused, slightly worried at Yugito's recent actions. With Naruto. Now that Naruto had been able to make sure Yugito's team was good to move on to the next stage of the exam, he decided to head back to the tower to get some rest, before Natsumi returned. Since she'd more than likely would want a certain itch scratched from all the havoc and bloodshed she caused. Not that he minded in the least. However, his plans found a little detour when he heard a loud, panicked and recognizable voice that screamed in the area he was traveling in. Sakura, he thought, as the scream subsided and the forest was quiet once more. Bah, I might as well check it out, he sighed. Naruto turned his direction quickly towards Sakura's voice, while breaking the branch he launched from the sudden force. Naruto quickly reached Team 7 only to have his brow arch in curiosity at the scene he was looking at. Deeper in the forest Team 7 could be seen, or what was left of them. Sai appeared to be lying against a large tree trunk, his body looking bruised and bruised. Some of his fingers were broken, obvious by the way they now pointed in directions that weren't normal. Though Naruto could tell he wasn't from the fact he could still hear his heart beating, slowly, but still beating. Next was Sakura, who looked only slightly better than Sai. Her wrist was mangled and the skin purple. Jutsu were now useless to her at the moment. She was collapsed on a large tree branch looking at the scene in front of her in utter horror. Sasuke was what caught the Hanyu's main attention. Well, him and an unidentified deathly pale grass shinobi that had his extended to unnatural lengths from across the tree tops and was currently biting the Uchiha genius in the shoulder. Sasuke looked the best out of the bunch, which was ironic since Naruto could tell that he had been the one who had fought the most out of the three. Naruto looked upon the scene with morbid curiosity, and just let the scene unfold unhindered by his actions, figuring that the fight was over and the man would simply take the scroll and leave the team to wallow in the defeat. What are you doing to Sasuke-kun? Sakura shouted, knowing that she was unable to fight with only one good hand. The grass shinobi smirked with his teeth still in Sasuke, before releasing the boy, who immediately collapsed to one knee holding his shoulder, trying to ease the pain of the odd tattoo mark left from the grass shinobi. The man's receded into his body, and with a snake-like smirk looked to see his project's seed become planted in Sasuke. Me? He asked in mock innocence. Why, nothing, my dear. I'm simply giving Sasuke-kun the thing he most desires. Power, his voice becoming more excited with every word, until his voice sounded like the hiss of a snake. What do you mean? You hurt Sasuke-kun, how can that possibly help him? You are much too innocent and young to understand, little girl, but Sasuke-kun knows. He knows the dark desire of power and strength. And that mark he now has is proof of my own. The moment he uses it, he will realize his potential if he becomes my student, and believe me, he will come to me. After all, I'm the only person who is willing to teach him without hindrance or fear of that strength to make his ambitions come true. The whole time the two were talking, Sasuke was concentrating his best to hear what they were saying, but the pain was becoming too great. However, the moment the man spoke about giving him the power to make his ambition, the death of his brother, come true, nothing else mattered. No pain, no Chunin exams, nothing but his vengeance upon his genocidal brother. The man saw the boy's body react to his words, and if even possible his smirk grew larger before speaking once again. Sasuke-kun, when you finally realize that this village is only holding you back from your true potential, seek me out, I will welcome you with open arms. Sasuke-kun, seek out. Orochimaru. He said gleefully, before beginning to sink into the very tree he was standing on, disappearing, leaving Team 7 to the deep wounds and thoughts. Oh, Orochimaru? Naruto questioned mentally, shocked at this turn of events. Naruto had never suspected that Orochimaru would have the gall to actually come to Konoha, and participate in the exams right under everyone's noses. However, his shocked thoughts were quickly thrown out for more pressing ones. King, the son of AB. Naruto let consequences be damned, and partially dropped his genjutsu, only keeping his kitsune features hidden, being in his adult form now, before he left the area in a swirl of purple flames. Damn it, where did he go? The Hanyu growled in frustration. The area he had left Team 7 in stunk of snake to high heavens, so he had to resort to cage bushes to make up the slack. Naruto ran through the forest like a bat out of hell, just hoping he'd find the snake Sannin before he escaped. Unfortunately, as luck would have it, he got the memories of a desummoned Kyuubi Bushin and immediately stopped in his tracks, finding out that someone else had found the snake Sannin first. Naruto wasted no time and rushed to where the clone had found the man, trees blurring past him as he made a beeline to help the lone person who was currently fighting him, and if Naruto guessed, was also losing, badly. Anko, he said under his breath as he increased his speed as much as he could without giving his approach away. With Anko, TSK TSK TSK. Orochimaru chided, waving a finger in front of him in pseudo-scolding way towards his ex-student. Quote. I'm disappointed, Anko-chan. After all the years that we've been separated, you don't seem to have gotten any stronger, he finished with a smirk. FYOU, you traitorous snake. The purple-haired woman shouted. Unfortunately for Anko, shouting at him was the only thing she could do at the moment, since she was currently crucified against a large tree, with kunai lodged in her wrists, and all across her trench coat, making it impossible to get loose unless she wanted to lose her coat, and more importantly her hands in the process. All these years, wasted, she screamed in her mind, her body was completely thrashed, cuts and bruises all over. She had realized after only a few minutes of fighting her old sensei that all the training she had done since he had left their strength gap still as wide as it had always been, and it both made her feel infuriated and disheartened. Orochimaru noticed the defeated look in his ex-student's gaze and smirked even more at it, drinking in her misery like a fine glass of aged wine. He slowly approached the defenseless woman until his face was inches from hers and licked his lips in the same infamous fashion that she had always known him to. Sir Anko-chan, although your strength seems to be the same as the last time we fought. Quote. He started before moving a hand atop her fish-netted stomach, making her shiver in disgust. Your body has certainly grown, healthy, my compliments to Kami-sama. He smirked, seeing her disgusted look at him touching her. What, you don't enjoy a man touching you? He rhetorically asked with a low sinister laugh, and his hand sliding ever slightly lower. From what I've heard around the village, you aren't all that hesitant to bed any male. I'm slightly ashamed of that, my student. He said in mock disappointment as his hand reached her skirt. But then again, when you were my student, you always enjoyed my snake, whenever you could, he chuckled, letting his hand go under her skirt and press his fingertips against her through her panties. Stop, the usually iron-steeled kunoichi stuttered out. She shivered from Orochimaru's psychological wordplay as well as touch, which had triggered very unwelcome and unpleasant memories of her past situations with the man that was groping her. This man was a genius at manipulating people, and it was easiest when your defenses were weakest, as hers were when she had hit puberty. A weakness which he capitalized on, nearly daily, and in the most raunchiest ways imaginable. Or, does Anko-chan not like that? He asked, in a husky voice, his breath washing over her hotly, making her squirm even more. Orochimaru was enjoying his power trip greatly, and decided to put the cherry on top in this situation with his student. He used a finger to move her panties to the side before sliding another finger against her entrance in earnest, making Anko shudder and an unwilling slightly escape her tea. Orochimaru smirked at her obviously strained and unwelcome and decided to end it right then and there, and parted her lips in preparation. Fortunately for Anko, a kunai had been sent flying towards the pale man and hit its mark, slicing through part of the man's trespassing wrist. Orochimaru pulled back, instinctively assessing the damage done, before looking at the culprit. So, Anko-chan, you called for backup NE. He said, amused, waiting for the assailant to show themselves. I'm disappointed though, you didn't even have enough faith in your skills to try to take me on alone. You lost your touch, Anko-chan. He chided, adding yet another nail into Anko's already damaged psychological coffin. Do not think so lowly of her, Orochimaru. Naruto's deep and strained voice echoed throughout the area, strained in the sense that he was holding back his growls of rage because Anko was still in danger. She did not ask me to come here to protect her. I came here to kill you, however my plans have changed slightly thanks to the twisted words you used against her to break down her emotional defenses. I see, however, what makes you think you can kill me? If you know my name, then you know that I am one of the legendary Sannin of Konoha, and I should not be taken lightly as such, he retorted with a smile, enjoying the man's bravado. Naruto stepped forward from the shadows of the trees to allow his opponent to see him, although all Orochimaru did was raise an eyebrow in curiosity. You're just a boy, and you think you can defeat me. Although I admire your bravery, I do so loathe your stupidity. It reminds me of my barker of an ex-teammate Jiraiya. If you are so sure of that, then step away from Anko and let us see who is in the wrong. Naruto offered coldly, leaving the ball in Orochimaru's court. The Sannin took a thinking pose a moment before his smile came back full force and stepped away from still shivering woman. Naruto jumped to the tree branch the two were on, keeping himself between Anko and her ex-sensei. Any rules to this duel? Orochimaru asked, sounding rather bemused at the prospect of fighting such a young and probably brash shinobi. Only one, Naruto said, his gaze hardening to that of ice. Only the winner will come out alive. He finished before fully releasing his normal chakra and ki, which washed over the surrounding area. My, so you were holding back, no wonder you acted so confident. Orochimaru chuckled. However, I hope you don't think that strength alone will decide a shinobi battle. He counted, jumping back and taking his personalized taijutsu style. This boy, he is much more scared than I'd have imagined. Orochimaru mused, his once bemused expression hardening slightly at this realization as beads of sweat fell down his face because of Naruto's ki. Quote, ... If I'm not careful, he might actually be able to severely hurt me if his chakra output is any indication. Just who the hell is he? Damn, I got here way too late. Anko looks like she is about to pass out from blood loss, and Orochimaru's psychological and physical assault on her isn't helping her fight it off either. I need to end this quickly. Gomen Natsu-chan, but if I can, I need to end him here and now. Naruto thought, getting into his own taijutsu stance. Naruto, taking one last look at the prone form of Anko, whose head was bobbing up and down, apparently in and out of consciousness, soon shot off at the snake Sannin. Orochimaru was slightly surprised at the boy's speed, but was able to block his kick well enough. Unfortunately, he underestimated the boy's strength and while blocking the kick, was pushed so hard into the tree branch that it left him in a 3-foot-deep crater of splintered wood. This kid is insane. Who the hell trained him? Sarutobi-sensei wouldn't have allowed someone like him to be trained in the village. Not after what happened with Itachi, and myself. And that useless man Danzo wouldn't be so direct with a confrontation with me, especially with a witness from Konoha around. Orochimaru thought, feeling his arm slightly numb from the kick. After being thrown back by Orochimaru's block, Naruto immediately jumped back on the offensive. He had little time to spare on the man, with Anko's life literally trickling away every moment. The two began a heated taijutsu match, with each getting their fair share of damage once Orochimaru decided to get serious. After a rather vicious right hook from Naruto which sent the snake Sannin back a good 10 yards, Orochimaru began sealing. Senei Jashu, hidden shadow snake hands. He said, extending both his arms out, allowing 10 snakes to shoot out, 5 from each arm, speeding towards the orange-haired Hanyu. TSH. Naruto grunted, before running towards the snakes. Orochimaru smirked at what he guessed to be Naruto's youthful arrogance, believing that snakes weren't very dangerous. Oh, how wrong he'd soon be. Unfortunately, every time one of his snakes was about to strike him, the snake would simply fly through the boy's afterimage. The snake Sannin mentally yelled, swiftly calling back his snakes as Naruto swiftly approached. This boy is just playing with me. The last snake was about to reach his sleeve, but got caught on something. Naruto's vice-like GS. Naruto quickly sped back on the snake, and with it Orochimaru towards him. As he sailed through the air, the snake Sannin could see a ball of chakra begin to form in Naruto's hand, which made Orochimaru look in surprised and slight panic, even if he wouldn't admit it. Rasengan. Naruto shouted, the moment he had thrust his jutsu into the chest of the Sannin. TSH, bastard got away. Naruto immediately concluded, knowing full well that the impact was too hard to be a body. Naruto closed his eyes and concentrated on his hearing, before his ears soon twitched and he turned towards the sound. Naruto let out a demonic growl, seeing that Orochimaru was now standing next to Anko with a kunai at her tea with a sadistic smirk on his face. Now, no need to get hostile. Orochimaru suggested in a happy tone. We are shinobi after all. And we use any means necessary to get what we want. He explained, raising the razor-sharp weapon against her tea. Naruto just growled even more at the Sannin's cheap but effective tactics. while Anko, who seemed to have regained some of her consciousness as well as personality back as they had fought, was also hissing at her ex-sensei, threatening to bit him if he got too close. Naruto could see the sadistic but bemused glint in the Sanin's eyes, and knew if he did anything the man would not hesitate to kill Anko, no matter how useful she once was to him. Naruto stood up, and relaxed his body, but kept his ice-cold gaze on both Orochimaru and his kunai. So what exactly do you want? Naruto's emotionless voice carried over, making Anko slightly shiver on just how serious and sly Hana's boyfriend could be. Good. You're finally getting it. He congratulated. What I was is a simple matter of information. He explained. For beginners, what your name is, who trained you, and how exactly you know the Rasengan. I may have not lived in this village for over a decade, but I was here long enough to know that only a select few are allowed to learn it, and even fewer living outside the village. If possible, Naruto's gaze and demeanor grew even colder towards the smirking man. He knew from the history books, as well as witness accounts, that Orochimaru's title of genius status wasn't just for show. The man was probably one of the smartest shinobi in all of the elemental nations, but it still pissed Naruto off that he caught him so easily with only seeing the Rasengan once. After I tell you, how do I know you won't kill her anyway? Are an honorable shinobi, eh? Such a foolish choice in this profession. However, it is refreshing to see someone take unorthodox ways to live. Reminds me of myself. He chuckled. In truth, you don't. All you have to go on is my word. However, because of you reminding me so much of myself, I'll promise you that after you tell me what I want to know, I will leave Anko-chan alone. Of course, that is if you promise to not follow me once I do. Naruto took a moment to study the Sannin in front of him for any sign of falsehood. But then again, with this man you could never quite tell if he was telling the truth or not. He could say that the sky was red in such a convincing way that certain people would actually believe him. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't have the time, nor the skill to effectively detect if the man was lying, and only going by the information he knew as well as the man's steady heartbeat, he had to take the gamble. My name is Kazama Arashi, and I learned the Rasengan from Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. We met in Snow Country, and after some time taught me the technique in thanks for my companionship while he was there. As for who I learned from, there are too many people to count. I've been a wandering shinobi for most of my life, so I picked up things here and there from different people. He lied through his teeth. Orochimaru quirked an eyebrow at Naruto, but not knowing enough about the man to tell if he was lying, decided that if Naruto really was an honorable shinobi like he seemed to be, he wouldn't lie about this, more so with Anko's life in the balance. I see. Although I'd like to ask more questions, I can't be sure if you are lying to me about this or not, so I will take you on your word. Now do I have yours that once I leave you will not follow? He asked, only getting a strong affirmative nod from the orange-haired man. Very well, I'll be taking my leave then. But first. ... He pausing before leaning towards Anko and let his inhumanely long tongue slide up her tender enon face, making her whimper in disgust. You still taste as sweet as you used to. I guess you haven't kicked that dango habit of yours. He finished with a chuckle before pulling back the kunai from her tea and began sinking into the tree. We will see each other again, Kazama Arashi. He almost cooed out to the man as the last bit of him disappeared. Naruto growled in annoyance by the turn of events, however the reflection of the battle would have to wait. There was a buxom purple-haired woman that needed his attention now. He quickly rushed to her side and sped the kunai lodged in her coat out, but now was the hard part. Anko-san, I need to take those out of you, be ready. He softly ordered, hoping that she even heard him. Hi, she rasped out. Naruto frowned at what he was about to do, knowing from experience how badly it hurt, but knew it had to be done. He quickly grabbed both kunai, and with a swift tug sped both kunai out of the tree and her wrists. Anko's scream of pain could be heard through the area, as her blood splashed across the tree branch they were standing on. Naruto quickly caught the Junin in his arms, guessing that from the loss of blood she couldn't stand up on her own, if the slight blue hue of her skin was an indication. He quickly threw away the kunai, and laid her on the ground, while he knelt next to her, assessing all the damage her ex-sensei had done to her while he was rushing there. Damn, he did a number on you, Anko, but luckily for you most of it is easily repairable, the worst are your wrist wounds. He mused. Naruto quickly concentrated his chakra, and pressed a hand on both her chest and stomach. He then began the medical jutsu he had learned on his travels, making Anko's body radiate a purple aura, as waves of chakra entered her body, and repaired broken bones, torn muscles, and sped F. Once he finished, Anko took on a slightly more normal skin tone, but now it was up to him to get to the heart of the problem: her still bleeding wrists. Normally he'd have healed them first, but knowing that the snake Junon enjoyed her fair share of poisons, he decided to heal the rest of her wounds first. "Anko-san, you still with me?" he asked softly, only getting a slight nod in response. "Good. I was able to take care of most of your wounds, but I'm going to have to sanitize your wrist wounds first before healing them in case you were poisoned. This will feel weird, but do not worry," he assured her. Naruto sighed at what he was about to do, but knew that without the right supplies this was the easiest and quickest way to sanitize any wound, well, that he could use anyway. He propped the struggling woman's upper body onto his lap and grabbed her left wrist, bringing it up to his mouth. "Onopo, Suba Fukatsu, Demon Art, Saliva Restoration," he whispered out before baring his teeth and sinking them into her wrist, encompassing the bleeding wound. Anko groaned at Naruto's penetration, but soon relaxed after feeling a warm sensation that encompassed her wound before it spreading through her body. "What is he doing to me?" Anko mentally questioned, fighting off both the sweet whispers of unconsciousness, as well as the warm feeling Naruto was causing her. "Hey, I never asked you to save me," she argued. "Now onward," she ordered with a laugh, kicking his ribs like one would a horse. "Touché," he conceded before disappearing from the area in a burst of speed, leaving the battered forest. Unfortunately, with Anko's weight added on, and Naruto not wanting to show his Hanyu self, the trip to the outskirts of the Forest of Death and to the beginnings of Konoha took longer than expected. The silence began to eat at the purple-haired Junon, mainly because it forced her to think about the situation that just occurred, and in truth she didn't want to think about it. "Ano, Arashi-san," she called out. "Hi," he yelled back since the wind caused a lot of sound. "Why were you in the Forest of Death anyway? You know it was for genin only during the exams, unless an emergency came up," she asked, nuzzling herself into his back more as a sort of security blanket, in case he yelled at her for asking him. It was rather rude to interrogate someone who had just saved your life after all. Because of the things going on with the village, and the years of bad blood between Naruto and Konoha. Hana-chan asked me to keep an eye out for him during the second part of the exam. I was only planning on following him to make sure no one tried to finish him, since no one was around to stop them if they did. However, I found Orochimaru on my travels with Team 7 and then followed him to you. You know the rest." "I see. Gomen for asking. I was just curious. Arigato for helping me too. I know I can act like a b at times, but it's nice to know people have my back when I really need it." "Not a problem, and if you're a friend of Hana-chan's, you are a friend of mine. I trust her judgment when it comes to peers she associates with, so I won't write them off immediately just because they are from Konoha," he answered back, his voice deepening by the end at the mention of Konoha. The pair's conversation was cut short as the gates to the forest appeared and Naruto easily hopped them before speeding off towards the village. With Hana had just finished working a double shift at the vet's clinic and was now heading home to refresh herself before heading towards the Forest of Death so she could see the preliminaries to the final part of the Chunin exam. Now usually it was forbidden for non-participating members of the exam to see it besides for the final part, but luckily for Hana, her two best friends were one of the proctors to the exam, and if that failed the other was a genjutsu mistress. She turned the corner to head down the street that held most of the middle to smaller clans' compounds located on it. However, her plans were put to a halt when she saw a blur coming towards her and was kicking up dust like a tornado. She enhanced her sense of smell and sight as best she could, and with both of them in use she was able to discern that it was Naruto, although she wondered why she also smelled Anko with him. As soon as the blur was about to pass her, it stopped to reveal Anko basically strapped to Naruto's back, with her cloths torn up, and bandages in certain places. "Arashi-kun?" she questioned, with an arched brow. Seeing her obvious expression asking for an explanation, he decided to defuse the situation before it grew. "Gomen, Hana-chan. I need to get Anko-san here to the hospital. I'll let you know when I get back," he explained, before disappearing from the area. Hana looked rather surprised at the whole incident, but wanted to know answers sooner than later, so she jumped off to follow the pair, and get her questions answered the moment Anko was in capable hands. Konoha Hospital. Naruto reached the hospital soon after meeting Hana, and allowed the doctors to take Anko away. Although not before Anko surprised him by kissing him passionately as a thank you for saving her. Thankfully Naruto turned around to see Hana running towards the hospital doors. Wow, I almost bit the bullet on that one. He sighed in relief, thankful that Hana didn't get there a minute earlier. Okay Arashi-kun, what is going on? She asked as he met her outside of the hospital. Naruto just smiled at Hana's flushed face from her full sprint run, thinking it looked cute, before giving her a kiss and pulled her along with his arm wrapped around her waist. Well you see, he started before explaining his team's portion of the exam, and then the introduction of Orochimaru. That son of A.B. Hana growled out with bitter hatred spinning off her bared fangs. Hi, he is a very annoying man, but strong, and intelligent, and worst of all cunning. He will be annoying to K when the time comes. He agreed with Hana's sentiments, and pulled her closer to him. We'll get him Arashi-kun, but on to more pleasant news since I know Anko-chan will be okay thanks to you. She began while smiling appreciatively at his protectiveness of her friend. Quote. I was actually going to get ready and then go to the exam and watch you guys. Want to keep me company? She asked innocently, with Naruto never noticing the calculating glint in her eye. Sure. The exam on average takes a few hours, and we finished in a little over an hour into it. So that should give us a few hours to relax before I have to get back, he answered. Hana just smiled before pulling him along, nearly dragging him to her house. He never saw the mischievous grin on her lips. Inuzuka compound. Ohio Car-san, Naruto greeted as the pair clambered into the house. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Is this part of the exam already over? Chum asked, poking her head into the hallway from the kitchen. No, but my team already got to the tower, so I decided to go exploring, and ironically found Orochimaru. He explained, seeing Chum's eyes widen in shock and slight concern. Unfortunately he got away. He finished. I see, and you are okay. Hi, it was a pretty even match until he took a hostage, but he left soon afterwards so I took care of them by bringing them back here, he explained getting an understanding nod from her. But why are you here? Not that I mind see you. She asked chuckling at how her question might have come out. I invited him over to keep me company until I'm ready to go to Head Totty Tower to watch the preliminary matches. Hana interjected. Ah, well they shouldn't be over for quite some time, so make yourself at home Naruto-kun, I'll make us some TNE. Arigato Car-san. Chum smiled at the pair before leaving them to their own devices. Hana brought Naruto up to her room, and gathered her things, before telling him to relax while she took a shower. Naruto agreed and let her go off, before plopping himself on her bed and just relaxed. Damn, that bastard was a lot stronger than I gave him credit for. It's no wonder why H is a genius, as well as a Sannin, Naruto grumbled in his mind, after realizing just how tired he actually was. Naruto's eyes soon began to droop, and decided to take a short nap since he still heard Hana in the shower. Little did he know, he just unwittingly fell into Hana's trap, which had been sprung the moment he crossed the threshold of her room. With Hana, quote, tower, it had been nearly 3 hours since the start of the exam, and there were already a handful of teams walking the halls of the tower waiting for this part of the exam to finish. Most of these teams being the favorites in the exam that most of the public thought would become Chunin this year, such as Whirlpool, Sand, Seven, as well as a few others. Meanwhile Haku was resting in one of the lounges while reading one of the shinobi magazines that were supplied to fight off the boredom. She was drowning herself in one particular article that caught her eye pertaining to Hyoten Jutsu. Unfortunately, her reading was put to an abrupt stop when the magazine was cut in half thanks to a kunai. You. A rugged voice demanded. Where is the demon? Haku sighed in disappointment at being interrupted from her reading, and looked up to see Team Whirlpool standing before her with Valios in the forefront and kunai in hand. I don't appreciate you disrupting my reading, she answered neutrally. Well, fortunately for me I don't really care, since my Nissan's soul is at stake. He growled out. Now where is the demon? He ordered once more. Why do you wish to know, Valios? A feminine voice called out from behind them. Because we want to know why it's such a coward that no matter how hard we looked we couldn't find it in the forest, Kasumi answered, her gaze hardening towards Natsumi who had blood splashed all over her. I see. Well, unfortunately for you. Team Iwa found us first, and found the scroll we needed after we dispatched them, Natsumi explained. Valios's eyes darkened after hearing that, and in a flash had Natsumi pressed against the wall by the collar of her shirt. What possible reason do you have for being teammates with that monster? Is that where all that blood came from? Valios shouted, his rage emanating off him. Natsumi was about to answer when her nose twitched at the scent of someone she knew rapidly approaching their position. The next second a blue-hilted katana was resting on Valios's arm and pressed dangerously against his N. Kasumi, please keep your teammates under control. This is my second warning about threatening to harm those important to me. There will not be a third. Naruto's cold voice reverberated throughout the room, the moment his body phased next to his mate and Valios. All three of Uzumaki's gazes landed on Naruto before growing dark. However, Kasumi didn't wish to witness the wrath of Kyuubi just yet, and walked up to Valios, putting a hand on his shoulders, silently ordering him to back down. Valios grunted in disapproval but did so and let Natsumi go, before turning his back to the demon pair. Enjoy yourself while you can, demon, because your time is almost up. Valios threatened coldly before his team left the room, leaving only Team Ice Fox. TSH, can't leave them alone for a few hours before they start something, Naruto sighing in annoyance. Where were you anyway, Naru-kun? You said 2 hours, Natsumi asked, noticing that his wardrobe was back to his Junin pants and sandals, while she sensually licked some remnants of blood off her fingers. Well, you see, he started out before explaining the circumstances he met after he left the tower to both Natsumi and Haku. Natsumi herself was pissed at first that he hadn't even contacted her about Orochimaru, and waited until now of all times too. But agreed to his explanation on why he hadn't, knowing that he was right no matter how annoyed she was. The team would have continued their talk, but it was interrupted by loud, ding, sound coming out of the speakers set up in the tower. All remaining teams please report to room C5 for the final part of this exam. Geez, and I just got here too. Naruto said in pseudo-sadness, before he and his team went towards where they were told. Room C5 Preliminary Battle Arena. The teams were now standing in a large room that was obviously some kind of battle arena. The teams lined up in front of the congregated Junin sensei, proctors as well as the Sandaime Hokage himself. Our welcome and congratulations to all the shinobi who have passed the survival portion of the Chunin exams. Sarutobi's voice boomed throughout the room. However, it seems that this year's batch of participants are better than we expected and many more teams have survived up to this point. Unfortunately, because of this surplus of shinobi, preliminary matches must be given to dumb down the amount that will be participating in the final portion of the exam. He explained, getting the attention of all the participants before explaining the rules of the matches. Now that you know what is expected of you, do any of you wish to back down before the matches begin? Simply raise your hand now. He commanded, while looking at the crowd. After a few seconds 2 hands went up. Names. Anko, who had been able to recover in the hospital enough to get back to her proctor's job, asked with little interest. Yakushi Kabuto. Sai. The 2 men stated, before Anko nodded and the 2 left the room, never noticing the hardened gazes of a few of the Leaf Junin as well as the Hokage himself. Very well, since the rest of you are still willing to continue, please choose whichever balcony you wish and prepare for the preliminary matches to begin, Sarutobi ordered. The teams with their senseis in tow went up to the balconies and waited for the large screen to reveal the first matches of the preliminaries. Once everyone was settled in, Sarutobi snapped his fingers and the large screen came to life, with the names of the remaining participants flashing around. Finally the list began to slow, before coming to a complete stop, revealing the 2 shinobi who would begin the fights. Most of the teams looked in on surprise, never expecting the 2 who were chosen to be the first picked. Very well, will the 2 participants please join the referee in the middle of the arena? The Hokage ordered. The 2 participants did as was told and began the descent to the arena below. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.